Well, they're also very sweaty, but I didn't want to ruin the movie for you.
Hey guys, I'm Alain,
And I'm David.
and welcome to I Finally Watched, where we talk about movies that at least one of us has never seen before. And today, I finally watched Warrior.
Quick synopsis of Warrior. It stars Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy as brothers. They grew up with an alcoholic and abusive father, Patty, played by Nick Nolte. As teenagers, Tom Hardy went off with their mother, and Joel Edgerton, Brendan Conlon, stayed with their abusive father. This is years later, and there is a mixed martial arts tournament trying to find the baddest man on the planet, as the promoter would like to say. And the two brothers, both fighters. Tom Hardy was a wrestler in high school, and Joel Edgerton fought in the UFC in his 20s, are entered into the contest, and it takes off from there. And so, Lon, I want to start off by asking, because I know you've seen both of these, but which did you enjoy more, Warrior or Bloodsport? Because they're the same thing, basically. It's the
Right,
same. It's a very similar plot.
there's no difference.
Well, there's a big difference, but it's the same plot.
I enjoyed this movie a lot more. I guess for obvious reasons, as far as the quality of filmmaking goes. We both know Bloodsport is like a B movie. There's no denying it. It's a great B movie. I give it that. But there's just so much quality and obviously more budget that went into Warrior. Uh, I I, uh, I really like this movie. It surprised me how much I kind of rooting for the characters. I have to say, I went in it with not really like giving a crap about it, and so I kind of glazed over maybe the first 10 minutes of the movie, and so I missed the fact where when Tommy, played by Tom Hardy, is talking with his dad. I missed the fact where he mentioned his brother. And so when it was revealed that they're brothers, I was like, whoa, they're brothers. And then rewatching it for a second pass, I was like, oh, that was totally told right from the start. So
Wait, so the first time you watched this, are you saying like towards the end when it's revealed they're brothers, like as they're fighting, that's when you figured it
no,
out?
no, 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 because so it's mentioned. It's when the dad shows up at Brendan's front door in the driveway that
Right.
I that's when I put it together. Thinking back, I actually thought it worked a lot better. Not better. Just I thought it worked as kind of a reveal because you at that point in the movie you kind of see both like interested in that Sparta match for the $5 million. And I thought, oh, these two characters that we're kind of getting to know, but also have no relation to each other. Brendan, in my mind, had everything to lose, and Tom Hardy. I'm just gonna call him Tom Hardy, but Tommy had nothing to lose, and I thought kind of that's where the motif of the story was gonna lie is who has better like motivation and urge, someone who has everything to lose and everything on the line, or someone who has nothing to lose and nothing on the line. And then I realized that they were brothers, and I was like, oh, this is so much like I was in it at that point. I was just like, oh man, who do I want to win? I'm like, I'm leaning towards Brendan, and then the stuff came out about Tommy in the military. I was like, oh, now I'm team Tommy, and I got like way into it.
Yeah, and just to preface this, spoilers throughout. Like, just go watch it first if you haven't seen it. But what I really enjoyed, and what I think what probably pulled you in as well, is the stakes that are created for both sides. Brendan is going to lose his house. He's way behind on his mortgage. Like, he needs this one shot to be able to save his house and his family. And then Tommy on the other side has his brother from the military, someone that he became really close with, that died, and he needs that money to help out that man's widow.
What I thought was interesting though is that basically right when you meet Brendan, You know that his house is on the line, his daughter who has heart problems, and that, you know, the medical bills are draining their funds. So you kind of know, like, oh man, this guy has everything to lose if things don't work out for him. But you don't quite get Tommy's side of it until kind of later on, kind of towards the middle of the film, when you learn about what he did in the military and his brother-in-arms widow and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting how the filmmaker decided to, you know, what parts to reveal about the characters and then what parts to kind of hold back.
And so, because I had seen this, and I can't really remember how it played with me, this came out 2011. What, how did kind of the slow reveal of Tommy's military career? You know, you first just find out that he joined the Marines, and then there's kind of this out of place scene where this guy that's still in the Marines or in the military, you know, sees a video of Tommy, you know, beating the crap out of someone and says, "Oh, I recognize that face," and then realizes, "Oh, this is the guy that saved me." And then you get the backstory on that. How did that play for you, like at the build up to finding out Tommy's full story?
I think at that point, maybe they're in Atlantic City or right before, when they go to Atlantic City, and then it's just like it cuts to desert, title card, Iraq, and I'm like, wait, what? What did I miss? But in fact, I didn't miss anything. They jumped right to Iraq, and so it's funny because he's like, oh, I recognize this guy from this shitty quality of video comparatively to the same guy in shittier night vision quality of radio. I was like, okay, sure, whatever.
I just wanted him to, like, on the YouTube video, be like, enhance, enhance.
Can we bring up the resolution? Yeah, no, if you just get over that part of it, but I was coming up with, because it doesn't reveal all at once, it's little by little through the movie, what exactly happened with Tommy during his military service. That scene followed by the scene, I think the scene that you get right after that has to do with his time in the military is when he calls up his brother-in-arms widow and has a conversation with her. And I'll get to something in a second that elaborates on this, but the dialogue between them, it doesn't reveal exactly what happened, but you pick it up in context clues. So at first I thought, oh, he recognized him through this video because he's wanted and he defected from the military and he's going to get in trouble for that. And then it's revealed, oh no, he actually saved a bunch of guys' lives. And then it's revealed, yeah, he saved a bunch of guys' lives and he defected from the military. So I was like, oh, I was right. I just didn't have the full story at that point. So that's kind of how it played out to me.
Yeah, and the ending too, which it's revealed that he's a deserter, but the military is going to allow him to fight this last fight, similar to Bloodsport, where Jean-Claude Van Damme can fight this last championship fight before he has to go back with Forrest Whitaker and the other guy.
Well, it's just because the U.S. military captains and lieutenants and colonels are just big tap out fans. So,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
The question as this was going on and as the movie ends, I was like, I wonder what would happen to him, because obviously the publicity, you saw all the Marines in the audience, and I think that would be true to life. Yeah, he deserted the Marines, but his entire squadron, whatever, was killed. And then so after deserting his brothers that are all dead, he then saves the lives of the 9-10 guys.
Like a whole nother squad. So and you do find out that they died because of friendly fire. the U.S. missiles attacked them and killed them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like I bought into the characters and was really invested. I'm like, man, I just hope he doesn't need to go to jail. Like, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's a pretty good guy.
So I just want to kind of, as a general things I liked about the film, I thought the characters were really great. I thought even like the minor, like the really, really minor characters, like Brendan, when he's not fighting in strip club parking lots, he's teaching high school physics. And you spend like no time with his students, maybe like two, 3 scenes, 5 minutes in total. But the writer really gave them a lot of character. Same with like the people at the boxing gym. I have to tell you, the principal of the school is one of my favorite characters, and then Frank, Brendan's coach, is I think my favorite character apart from like the main characters. I just really enjoyed I enjoy that actor. He's great at range. For
The
those who
the
for,
principal or Frank?
Frank, for those who don't know, he plays Crossbones in the MCU in Captain America: Civil War, and then Winter Soldier first, and then Civil War. So he's just a really like good actor with a lot of range. Yeah, and so the characters were just so well written and well acted. It just, you can't help just kind of fall in love with them. But what I thought was even better than the characters is the dialogue. In the beginning of the movie, you're kind of thrown in this situation where it's Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte talking, and without being like, oh, you're my dad. Yes, you're my son. You beat mom growing up. You ran away. Everything was explained to you in very clever, context-filled dialogue that is actually throughout the whole film. So instead of like any long scenes of exposition, everything is just, you're dropped in this like story of this family who's having this like long feud, and instead of just telling you what it is, you kind of have to figure out through this clever dialogue. And I thought that was just so well done, and I think that's what kind of engrossed and encaptured me in this film, is that you constantly have to watch to know what's going on, and then the characters are interesting enough that you want to keep watching and guessing and figuring out what's going on.
Yeah, it's written in a way that's not like a lot of movies have very obvious exposition. Characters say things because the audience needs to know them, and that kind of plays into the Tom Hardy storyline. How you know very little about him because he doesn't really want to reveal much to his father. He doesn't trust his father, and the only thing he wants from him is training. He wants him to train him, and so it's so kind of true to life that character would not be very open with a man who beat him and his mother for years and has suddenly had an awakening and hasn't had a drink in close to 3 years. That's good for him, but Tommy still remembers the dark times, and so the fact that he doesn't speak to him is just, it just makes sense.
One of the kind of interesting relationships that this film has is between Tommy and his dad,
I
where
think it's the most interesting.
the most interesting. But I thought it was the part that kind of like, the scene in the diner.
Yeah.
Tommy goes to his dad and he's like, I don't want you. I'm not going to treat you like a dad. I don't want you to treat me like a son, but I need a coach.
Right.
And then he kind of sets all these precedents where it's like, but you're not going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're not going to do this. And his father's like, hey, listen, stop setting like ground rules for me, because you're the one coming to me asking me for a favor, and you're being like a little bitch about it. So like, you're coming to me, you're going to follow my rules. But then Tommy kind of overtakes that, and he's like, okay, but on the other hand, it's like, you treated me so. He kind of used his dad's guilt to turn the tables without saying like a word. but he used the guilt, and he's like, you haven't seen me in, what is it, like 15 years. So he uses the guilt, but he also uses like, I know you want to be close to me. Like, I know I'm your son and you miss me at some degree. So they're both using a form of guilt to have a barrier between them, but also to like stick on some sort of relationship.
Yeah, and I love the line too of like, you say all these things, that's fine, but don't act like you're gonna quit every 5 minutes on me, or like we're not, we might as well just not do this.
Yeah.
What I also really enjoyed about that is like as that scene was happening, it's like, oh yeah, this is the scene where he tells him to give up all the pills. And I remembered him saying Maraca, like it stuck with me. And so as he's walking in, I was like, I wonder if you can hear the pills. And you could, but I don't know that that's something. Did you pick that up the first time? Like you could hear the pills? Yeah, it's like not something. It was so subtle that it's only something you could hear if you were looking for. And Patty only heard it because he knew it would be there, and he was able to hear the pills too. It was just like, what's funny is this: the writer director of this, they haven't really done a lot, and yet this was just for an action fighting movie. I think was just so well written and so detail oriented. Like a lot of the UFC stuff was pretty well done. As far as the storyline goes, just because like someone like Brendan wouldn't be able to do well in this tournament, except for the fact that he's able to submit people, and so that kind of gives him this puncher's chance, even though he can't really, he can punch, but he's not. That's not what he does, and so that the fact like it was just very like kind of accurate to me that if someone was gonna be an underdog in this type of thing, they would have to catch people, and that's what it. After like 3 or 4 fights of him being able to do it, you're like, okay, well, yeah, I guess he's gonna keep winning this way. But I think it was kind of an accurate way to represent someone like him being able to be successful against these world beaters.
I kept trying to figure out how this was going to end. This movie is like a little over 2 hours, and the way it's structured, I really liked, because almost to the exact middle point of the movie, you get to know these characters, you get to know their motivations, you get to know where they're coming from. Right after the halfway point, the whole rest of the movie takes place during the match. And I just really I really like that structure. There's a couple more plot points that I want to get into, and I feel like there's been nothing but praise we've both been giving to this movie. But I would like to touch on some things I did not like about the movie, because there were a couple like fundamental filmmaking flaws that I didn't, and I think that's fair. I just didn't enjoy about the movie.
Continue.
Okay. So one, on a more general basis, I thought, as compared to other films, the sound design and the way the background noises, for example, like the cheers from the crowd, or even the music, was poorly mixed. Sometimes in scenes, you heard nothing but music and no background noise, and that works for some films. I thought it was just a poor choice for what this film was. But then on the other hand, you have this music trying to break through, and then the dialogue, you can't hear. Both the music and the dialogue is muddled. About 40 minutes into the film, I had to turn on subtitles because I could not understand a word coming out of Nick Nolte's mouth.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tom Hardy.
No, well, no, I mean, it was just kind of, at certain points, the sound mixing was so bad, I couldn't understand what the characters were saying. So there's that. And this movie would have been like A material in my book if it wasn't for this one scene that knocked it down for me so hard. And I was like, the ending was spectacular, but that couldn't even like excuse what it did to my soul. It was the scene where all of a sudden, out of the freaking blue, it decided to split screen multiple things happening at the same time. Like I was watching some high school PowerPoint where Yeah, I get it. It was a like a workout montage, but they were trying to fit in like UFC announcers saying their crap, and I just thought it was so poorly because I understand, fighting movie, boxing movie, MMA movie, you need a montage scene. I get it. I've seen Rocky, but the way it like 2002 PowerPoint split screen when like a fourth of the screen was a picture and then everything else was black and then it just lazily slid over to another picture. I thought it was just so badly done. I was like, well, this is not the movie I just have been watching.
Oh no, I liked it. I mean, that's all I can say is I thought it was an interesting way to do the montage that has to be in all these movies.
You
Like you
thought it was
have to have,
an interesting
you
one?
ha- so yeah, you have to have a workout montage, and not only in this instance, you have 4 or 5 of these fighters that you kind of care about, right? They had to show Koba, who's the huge Russian that everyone's scared of. You had to show the progression of Brendan because in the beginning of this, he's obviously incapable of being in Sparta. So you had to show his development, and you at the same time show Tom Hardy's development and his training with his with Patty. So I thought it was fine. I didn't notice the things you're saying, and also I do kind of get your point about the sound design of it. The thing that saves it for me is the national song at the end, at the very end of the movie, which makes me cry every time I see the end of this movie. That scene with like Tom Hardy weeping and Brendan weeping, Joel Edgerton. I think,
I told you, I saw the cover and I told you they were both crying. I knew it.
well, they're also very sweaty, but I didn't want to ruin the movie for you. So I mean, that scene is so powerful for me, and that song is just perfect for it. So that just raises it up to me. And yeah, I
But
can.
like I said, I don't care about, I understand movies sometimes just play the song and drown out all the background audio. I get that. But when it's messing with me understanding what the characters are saying, that's what I have the biggest problem.
One of the great things about this movie to me is the destination you can tell from the cover. You know that these two brothers are going to fight in the end. It's obvious. But what I think is also really well done in this is like there's going to be a collision course between Brendan and Tommy in multiple ways. One, they haven't spoken to each other in years, and up until 2/3, 3/4 of the movie, they still haven't spoken until that scene on the beach in Atlantic City. And so I like I don't know what the word for it is, but you have the physical confrontation and then the emotional confrontation at the same, within a day of each other. And that scene is, I think, so powerful because it's Tommy finally opening up and explaining, what his brother and what his dad did to him. And also Tommy a little bit defending his father because he was absolutely horrible to his dad the entire movie, which is so understandable because the picture we get, this movie just shows the recovery of Patty Conlon, but we didn't, as the audience, didn't get to see him beating his sons and beating his wife and being an alcoholic womanizer for all those years that they had to live with it. And so that scene where, Tommy just tells Brendan, it's like, you're asking me for forgiveness. What about the way you treat our father? You know what I mean? And then Brendan explaining about, his girlfriend that became his wife, and Tommy's like, you were my big brother. I needed you, and you abandoned me. And it's that simple. The other powerful scene, besides the fight ending, is Nick Nolte kind of relapsing and getting drunk. And I would imagine that's the scene that got him nominated for the Oscar, just
Oh,
because it's.
I did no research prior or post to this movie. So he was nominated as what, best supporting?
Yep.
Oh, was
Yeah.
the movie nominated for anything else?
No, just him.
Oh, huh. I mean, I thought he did
Yeah.
great, but I thought there was other. I mean, this movie isn't going to win for best editing or sound design, so I'm not worried about that. But
Coming really strong with that take still. But what was interesting is it almost seems as if Tommy was kind of purposely treating his father poorly as a punishment, because as soon as he sees his father actually in need, drunk in the hotel room, something that his father had tried to give up. Tommy takes care of him in a really kind of, great way. It's a very personal moment between them. And so it almost, not that it was an act, but it was almost just a purposeful, you don't deserve anything from me. You don't deserve to have me as a son anymore, but in his time of need. And I thought that was a great scene.
What I really thought was, and this leads to the ending. This leads to the eventual ending story arc of both brothers. But to you, did it feel like Tommy, who made the right decisions? He's kind of like a very self-sacrificing sort of guy. You pick up. He
Very, very idealistic.
Very idealistic. He went off with his mom, who was the abused in this situation. He tried to take care of her until she died. Then he went off to join the war, and he lost everyone. But then he managed to become a hero, taking no credit. I mean, you understand that he was defecting, and that's why he took no credit. But he didn't try to like turn it on him as the hero. He was ashamed, even though he did something really great. He took no credit. He made all the right self-sacrificing choices in his life, it seems. On the other hand, his brother, who selfishly stayed with his abusive father, who selfishly stayed with his high school sweetheart, he got married to the woman of his dreams, 2 beautiful kids, and then he went off to win the fight. It almost seems like Tommy, who did the right thing all his life, got the raw end of the deal. And then Brendan, who did what he wanted to do all his life, got everything he wanted. And it just, for me, in that final battle, it was so unfair to Tommy. And then when the shoulder was popped and he wouldn't go down, I was like, because I guess he was going to lose his house and his little girl had a heart problem, I was like rooting for Team Brendan. But that all coming together and Tommy still having that spirit about him, even though basically life just took a giant crap in his face. At that moment, I was like, damn, I kind of really hope Tommy wins because he deserves it, I thought.
Yeah. And that was another one of the when it ended, I was like, really invested. I was like, man, I hope Brendan gives that widow some money. He doesn't need all $5 million to pay off his house. Just throw some change her way. Do it. What I did like about that is after he takes out, rips Tommy's shoulder out of his socket, and then they have another round, and Brendan's telling him like, just give up. You don't have to do this. Why are you doing this? And then it gets him in a chokehold. It's like, just tap, Tommy. I love you. I love you. And I just thought that so much was said with him tapping out and giving up, because it's not only is he giving up the fight, but he's like giving up his anger towards Brendan and like saying like, all right, not like we're gonna be a happy family, and not like, oh, we're gonna invite Dad over for barbecues, but there was definitely some softening towards Brendan, and I think both of them softening a little bit towards their father, but really just realizing that they needed each other and they loved each other. And it's kind of it's a powerful moment. And then that song hits and oh man, it's such a great ending.
No, I agree with you. Because so few words were exchanged in the middle of that fight. In our other reviews, we were talking about the last 10 minutes or like that extra 10 minutes, like Mystic River comes to mind, like the calm after the storm, kind of see where all of our characters are going to be at the end of the movie. And this film didn't have it. It was the fight. It was Brendan winning the fight, and then it was them walking off of the grounds, and then the movie just ended. And the cinema snob in me really liked that ending. Really liked that ending a lot. but the curious side of me, who actually really started caring about the characters and uh, their physical and mental health, and where they all are at, really wanted that extra 10 minutes to see, where's the money going? Is he going to go to jail? Is the dad going to be okay? So I thought that the fact that the movie kind of pulled that from me, um, just kind of made it, uh, it established itself as a really good film.
Yeah, and I think it leaves a lot of open-ended issues, but as Brendan told Tommy, and he's probably telling the audience too, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. So I think everything will be all right, Alon, and you can just know that it will be. So,
Okay, man. Thanks.
having discussed this, you were hesitant to watch Warrior when I suggested it, but is it something that you'll watch again in the future, even with the horrible montage?
I really liked it. It was really enjoyable. I liked all the characters, and I will watch it again. It just it'll be a little bit.
Yeah, I think this and Drive were my two favorite movies from that year, and so at any point I could put either of them on and be happy. So definitely watch this again.
I could watch Drive again. I really like Drive.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening. I'm David.
And I'm Alon, and I finally watched Warrior.